but not just what you're talking about, but it will continue in other areas like the offices, like the communities, so that we as a community can be seen as the people that we are, that we're resilient people, that we're fighters, and that we continue to do the things that need to be done. So, what you don't know about me that wasn't said by Saeed was that, you know, I'm more like most Haitians. We're looking to just live a good, decent life. We're looking to move forward. We're looking to be part of the ecosystem. We're looking to contribute to what's going on, not the story they tell about us. So when the TPS gets removed for 350,000 Haitians that are put in a life of disarray, sadly, it's a normal condition for us. We're constantly being disenfranchised from the day that we got our independence. So we'll continue the conversation, but this is why I do what I do. When he's talking about people that were out there, I'm the state treasurer for the NAACP. We were there protesting that from removing our the redistricting. So we have to do twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much, just to get barely half and then have it taken away. This is why I fight, and I hope this is why everybody else fights.
Thank you so very much. Please, a round of applause for them all. And it's important for us to understand and hear the stories directly from these individuals, because just like you and I, they are everyday citizens. Okay? I like to sometimes emphasize there's a need for the respective office, which is the offices that they hold. But behind those offices are individuals that also should have empathy to represent. Because if we do not have a sense of empathy to humanity, how are you going to be able to understand and see the needs or the challenges the everyday citizen is going through? So please join me again as I celebrate this gentleman and say thank you for all that you have done, all that you're still doing, and all that we will hold you accountable to continue to do for our community. Well, it is the first plenary session, and as it's written up there, as you follow us, Lived Realities, Collective Power, Centering African Immigrant Voices. The first question that I have for either of you, and you can take turns to answer this, is what is your view about leadership, representation of the community, and public service? Now, you can relate this on a state level and also be free to relate it on a national level. Anyone can go first.
All right. So I am going to start by saying our story. So oftentimes we left our country moving to United States because we all have dreams. And we are resilient people. And over the past couple of years, it seems like the immigrant community had been more like a statistics. When you turn onto the news and see what ICE is doing, what we contribute to the society is so immense that, I mean, education is one thing we don't take lightly. When I ran for office a few years ago, representation was the heart of it because we had a lady who represented my district that nobody had ever seen. And the way that I look at how government works is the power that legislators have is actually a direct consent from the people. It always has to be about what the people want. And we've seen it over the past few years where policies that oftentimes would be beneficial to you, people don't want to see that happen. And that's why representation mattered. A good example, before I got into the legislature, before I got into politics, I kept wondering, why are some of our counterparts not extending healthcare in Georgia? And I'm going to be brutally honest with you all. The reason why, being in the legislature now and knowing what's going on, the reason why is that when the environment is so convenient, when you extend healthcare with the Medicaid, if you understand the way the Medicaid works, the federal government pays for 90% of that. When you enroll, the federal government pays for 90% of that, and all the state has to pay for is just a small portion, 10% of that. And the state of Georgia intentionally decided not to be a part of that, not just because they don't want to associate with Democrat policies. I guess we've got a Republican governor, and I'm being partisan, and I'll do my best not to be. But what I found being in the legislature is that when the environment is so conducive, people move out here. And when people move out here and you have a better life, you tend to stay in Georgia, and they don't want that. Over the last 5 years, 500,000 people moved to Georgia. And Brian Kemp is getting frustrated about that because what he found was 70% of those people, those 500,000, are either black and brown folks. And when the environment is so convenient, people move over here and they don't want to see that happen. And that's just a fact. They don't want healthcare to be here. And that's why representation matters, because you would have legislators every day, my colleagues and I, we're fighting for that. We're making sure that not only do we have healthcare, but we also want to make sure that minimum wage is something that businesses pay. There's been a lot of legislation that's been introduced to increase the minimum wage. Our goal is to make life be convenient. And I personally believe that when we make life affordable for people, in my opinion, it doesn't really take away from anyone. It does not take away from anyone. And when we invest in those policies, we're investing in the people. So it's not a waste of money. It's not giving benefits to make people be lazy. It is actually investing in our people. And when you do that, you see fewer crimes. You see people being productive. You see the workforce shortage that we experienced during COVID. When you invest in communities like technical colleges, we would mitigate and resolve most of the problems that we have in society today. And that's why I think representation matters, and that's why I do what I do, and that's why I hope to continue to do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Wow. Appreciate that. So, Ms. Craig, you want to also pick up on that? Again, how do you see, from your personal experience, leadership, community, or public service?
I'll give a little bit more about my background. So my parents immigrated here from Trinidad and Tobago. My dad, an electrician, mom, actually she served in the military here in the U.S. And we were a low income family. We tried every day to make it. And I want to expand this just a little bit when we talk about immigrants. When you talk about the United States is not just, I think the way the picture is painted is that the United States, a lot of the people here have always been here, right? Right. So whether you came by choice or came by force, there's been we are a collective from all over this world. And right now, the tenor, what's being said is immigrants are the other, the enemy. What really built this country to be so strong was because of all our varied backgrounds and where we came from. So whether it's Africa or the Caribbean or anywhere else. So, and we all know, well, I won't say that, but I think we are treated different because we're brown. It's easier to separate us from everyone else. So with that said, as immigrants, as children of immigrants, we're bringing a perspective that I know this country needs to be better. And when you think about leadership, kind of skipping a little bit as well, it can be on a very small scale. I decided to run for a statewide office. I drove 4 or 5 hours probably every day. And it was so touching when you went to all these communities. Some communities you didn't want to be lost in, but there were very small communities, backwoods. It might be an hour to the gas station, but everybody, all these people are trying their small part to make their community better, whether it's with the Public Service Commission with regards to energy issues and energy prices, whether it's sidewalks, whether it's lights in your community. So everybody can be a leader in their community on a much smaller scale, which in the collective will definitely make this state and make your community better.
Thank you, Mr. Gregg. You're impeaching this, Mr. Jacques.
So we're talking about leadership, right, in community.
Yeah, from your personal perspective, how do you see this different areas?
So for me, leadership is simple. You simply show up and you do what needs to be done. And I've experienced that in several instances in my life. When I was a child in Haiti, because I was going back and forth for a while until I was about 14, until I got to high school age, I had a friend. We used to hang out. You know, he lived in the neighborhood. And we used to hang out, started taking him to church with me. And then I left. I was gone for 16 years. And I come back, and we're sitting and talking. And at some point, he said to me, you know, thank you very much. I'm like, for what? I didn't bring you anything. And he says, no, thank you for making me your friend, because back then when I was a kid, everybody had signed me, had written me off. His mom sold oranges in the street market. He was considered a bum. I was like, that's my friend. And he said, by you doing that, you validated me. I had to take myself seriously. And what I came to find was an accountant. He was overseeing over 70,000 Haitian dollars, you know, for that business. He was a church elder way before me, and he was a father, husband, father of two child. And then later on, when I went to college, I got into computer technology. And about 20 years later, I went back to New York, and my nephew took me around his office. And everywhere he would go to a cubicle, tell his, this is the uncle that made it possible for me to do this. He's the one that was programming, and I saw him programming these things and these things flashing on the screen. And now and that got me to go into technology. And now, you know, I got my business, and his business was doing work for the New York Mets, for the New York Knicks, for, you know, Saheed in the RE, putting all their websites and many great work he did. He was doing simultaneously Obama's and Hillary Clinton's website. Okay, funny story about that. He was telling me, he said, Uncle, let me tell you. So I was doing both, but I'm not supposed to be doing both. But it was the primary. So our one was run under my friend's business name, and the other one was under me. So we were watching the primaries, and it was like, I'm gonna have to give one up. So somebody from Hillary's camp said, hey, you know, Hillary's gonna win, so you might wanna make your choice quickly. He's like, yeah, I really want Obama to win, but looks like Hillary's gonna do it. So he moved away from Obama and he committed to Hillary. And he's like, Uncle, after Super Tuesday, I was toast. But leadership starts with that, being an example, doing what needs to be done. It's not a title. I do carry several titles. I could list them to you. None of it matter if I'm not doing the work, if I'm not representing right, if I'm not being an example to someone. So I believe everyone in here is a leader. I believe every child is a leader. They're either leading the other kids to do bad things, or they're leading the other kids to do good things. And the question is, which model are you following? A good leadership by doing the work, or you're following the poor leadership by not doing anything or doing everything you shouldn't do? So for me, that's what leadership means. The title only amplifies and validates the work you do, from my standpoint. As far as community, community has so many meanings. Okay. For me, I have my community at home. There's about 6 of us, plus the dog. Okay. She's part of the family too. Because at some point, that's my son's dog, and he didn't have time to take care of it because he was in college. I'm like, we're gonna have to get rid of Hazel. And he started crying. And I watched all the other kids suddenly say, hey, I'll take care of him this way. I'll do this, I'll do that. And suddenly everybody was there to care for Hazel. And now she's been part of the family. She was a puppy then, but she's a big dog. She's a husky, and she has a lot of energy. Requires, attention. And so now you should see Hazel, how she just knows when she comes to me, she just sits and gets ready to be pet. That's because the community took care of her. I didn't have time to take care of her, but the rest of the family, the kids, stepped up to take care of Hazel. That starts there. Then we have the church community. Then we have the Haitian community, the Caribbean community. Then we have the technology community, and just go down the list, the music community. There's different branches of community, and we're all part of many communities. The question is, as we're navigating through these communities and we're living life, what do we represent when we're in that community? Are we showing up in a way that amplifies that community and moves it forward? Or are we showing up in a way that undermines the community or doesn't move the needle? So for me, I try to be one that moves the needle as much as I can. If I can't do 10 things, I just do that one thing that people will know, okay, thank you for doing that. So, but for me, community is all about wherever you are, whoever you're interacting with, that you're a positive influence.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so very much. I mean, I think that was great. Just seeing the tie between, of course, an elected official who had to consider being at the Capitol based on an intent, whether it's in favor of the community or in favor of a selected few. At the end of the day, it's all about representation and putting your voice out there. So again, thank you so much for those experiences. Honing you to your words. Very important is the place of trust in all of this. So I would like to segue that to say building collective power starts with trust, right? Now, what have you found to be the most effective ways to bring together across the different nationalities? Of course, with bias to our African Caribbean community and, of course, the minority community in the United States. How would you say we can foster strength for an effective or more efficient ways to bring these communities together and generations based also on your lived experiences?
So it is very important that we have the heart for the people. Elected officials or any title or position that anyone has, always keep in your mind that it is not about you. When I ran for office 5 years ago, the focal thing on my mind was it's not about me. It has never been about me, and it will never be about me. Community is always important because I represent, if you think about, Craig mentioned that, United States, it's a melting point of every part of the world. At some point, you know, generations back, we all came here for the same reason, for the same purpose. And I, by and large, believe wholeheartedly that people should be represented equally. You don't pick parts of society. You don't pick the winners or the losers. You don't pick who deserves what and who's deserving less. It is not a good way to view society. And that's always stayed on my mind. Every single day when I'm hearing from constituents, I don't even, and it's so weird that United States have become so, I would say, race focused. We always, and we do that too in the legislature. Every policy that comes out, the one thing, at least from my experience, and I believe a lot of my colleagues would admit to that, when we have a legislation coming out, the first thing the people behind those legislations are looking at is race. And then they're looking at the financial part, who is benefiting from that. 90% of the policy, that the bills that we vote on, it's always the motive. And if there is one thing we can change in this nation, it would be to remove that racial identity. People should be seen as one. And when we do that, that solves a lot of problem because we're not picking a winner, we're not picking a loser. And every time when legislation hits my desk or comes up to the floor for a vote, I don't even know why it's a thing, but I've never focused on that. When you look at society as a whole, you make a better decision because I got 3 daughters and they go to school and they don't even know most of the crazy things going on. But my hope is that they get older and they're not so focused in the wrong direction. And the way that I run my household is also how it's a reflection of how I view my community. So my focus is a community as a whole and making sure that we have things that the society benefits and not picking a winner or a loser.
Right. Well, thank you, Rep. Solomon. But real quick before we come to you, Mr. Craig. So the media team has requested we try to fill up this front row just for their production reasons. So if you don't mind on the side, if you could just help to fill the front row, that would be appreciated. Thank you. So we'll come over to you now, Mr. Craig. And again, if you could speak, how do we basically foster effective ways to bring our community together with reference again to your experience, your lived experience, and also the diversity of our community?
Yeah, that's such a difficult question or answer, I would say. And there's so many things that are pushing against that. So we have leaders right now, nationally, and you can say locally as well, that are thriving or thriving by separating us, looking at just the differences, not our commonalities and our shared wants and desires. Not everyone has kids, but a lot of us do, and we want a better life for them. So we want them to succeed at their soccer game, have fun. We want them to, make the game-winning shot. We want them to get a great education, and we have so many things that we share and have in common. And right now, whether it's, again, our leaders or our technology, such as social media, that's really separating us. Like, I've tried to trick my algorithm a little bit, and I say, all right, I know this is not a partisan thing, but all right, hey, let me pick a couple Republicans just to see if I want more information than they're giving me, right? And my feed always goes, I get Barack Obama, and I get, of course, but I think we don't, whether it's you're a Democrat or Republican or anywhere in between, you're not getting all the information, and we're just kind of being separated into the side. And I'll tell this one story real quick. Is we had this friend in our family. We grew up with them basically through college. We volunteered with them in the community. We were great leaders together in the community. And my wife, she decides to run for office, and she runs as a Democrat. Now, this other person, we've grown up with them. We've been community organization. We've advocated for the community. We went to church together, and they disowned us for being a Democrat. They berated us and said, "Hey, you believe in this or that and that." And I'm like, okay, you know our heart. You've seen our heart for our community, and now just because we have this label, Democrat, now you're disowning us. So, kind of answer your question, but not it is difficult, and we need to really look at those commonalities. We really need to change or try to mix up the sources of information that we receive, and we need to encourage others, because I really feel like a lot of people, and I kept thinking about it, it's like, how did this guy become president of the United States? It does not make sense to me. And it has to be the source of information, because I know people who know people, and they say, hey, Craig, they have congregations that are just teaching people this information, or they have, they don't even, they believe this was the source of, Black people were the source of COVID. It's like, okay, we need to change our sources of information. We need to encourage our friends, family, that as well. I think that's one step we can take.
Well, thank you, Mr. Craig. That's duly noted and well appreciated. And thank you all for also making that move. I appreciate that. So I would like to have your input on this as well, Chris. Again, the focus is trust is an important component to leadership and the engagement with the community. So from your experience and perspective, how could we foster trust, recognizing the diversity of our community generation-wise as well? Over to you.
So trust for me is you say what you do and you do what you say. And too often that's a very simple statement, but creates such great difficulty. And in my experience, I simply try to be true to myself and be true to everyone else around me. I didn't mention that I did run for a state representative this year, and unfortunately, I fell on Cupid's side, where I didn't win, but I had a great experience running. And throughout the journey, a lot of things showed up. So in my community, in my subdivision, I'm on the board, and I've been president for the homeowners association. And so when I show up, I didn't know how some people would receive me because of a very mixed community. And to my surprise, I was received with several hugs. You know, one family, when they found out I was running, and me and my wife came to the door, and they said, "Can I hug you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So, but it was interesting because, I've always made myself available for calls. When they call, I pick up the phone, follow through. When there's an issue, I don't mislead them. And I know there was a big fight over the detention pond. 3 families have detention ponds, and they want the HOA to pay all the bills. And we're like, you got 250 other houses you're asking to pay for your land, But all the truth came out. When they came out, they're like, okay, you're right. And I was able to win people over that was upset at first, the interesting happened is we went to knock on some doors, and actually my canvassers knocked on the door, and then the family says, "Where's the candidate?" And I said, "Well, he's down the street knocking on doors." And they went in to get me, and it was a white family. And he says, "Okay, tell me about, says, okay, well, told him about me. Okay, he says, well, we're from Canada, so we're definitely Democrat because we don't believe in all this craziness going on here." I said, "Okay, great. What part of Canada?" He said, "Well, my family is originally from Greece." And I said, "Wow, did you know that Haiti helped Greece get its independence?" He's like, "Really?" I says, "Yeah." I told him the story, The Greece were fighting the Ottoman Empire, and they sent a letter to Haiti, and Haiti was like, "Well, we don't have much, but this is what we have for you. So please receive it well." And I said, to even corroborate that, we had a Haitian family in Georgia that went to Olympic representing Haiti in swimming, and from Japan, Greece flew them from there to Greece to receive a proclamation. Then I think he's like, wow. A few days later, I received an email. "Thank you for the 22 tons of coffee from Haiti. We would love to have a meet and greet at our house for you." I say that to say that it's not about the color. It's about how you show up to the person, how you connect with the person. When you show you care, people actually respond to that. When you're just there, "Okay, I just need this from you, see you later," you break the trust. Because it's like, "Oh, you just want this from me, so as long as you don't want something from me, I know I'm not going to see you." But when people see, hey, whether you want something from them or not, you're going to be there for them, people tend to be able to work with you, and, and operate with you. After the earthquake in Haiti, one of the commissioners called me because we used to work together, and he said, "Hey, what's going on with Haiti?" And I started telling him, "This is what's going on. This is what's going on." He's like, Jacques, you don't need to tell me all this stuff. I know you. I trust you because whenever you show up, you're never asking something for yourself. You're always asking for something for your community. Put my name on your organization's board. Whatever you need, I'll open the doors. So we have to build the trust just from how we show up with people. Be interested into the person's situation, the person's cause. If you're not invested in that person, my question is, why would that person want to be invested in you? So you have to build that relationship, that connection, and build a situation where people know when you say what you say, you mean it. And when you do what you do, that is something that means something to you that you're invested in. Otherwise, people will just tune out. And I think that's what's happened in our politics. Because as you demonstrated with our healthcare, why is it that there's $8 billion in the state coffers that is available to expand Medicaid, Medicare? It's coming from the federal government, but yet it's being held back. And yet people are dying from simple illness. My wife almost died from something they couldn't explain to her. She had to go to New York to get healing from that. So to this day, and she's in healthcare, okay? And she does not trust the system. The school system, our kids don't trust the systems. When I talk to my kids, why don't you do this? Well, he says, well, they don't care about us. And I know there's a lot of caring teachers, but the system does not show they care. So we have to get to a point that we get past all the different divisional points to say, well, this one deserves this, that one, and just let people trust us completely. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you this. I took a Black sociology course when I was in college, and I learned this. Slavery did not happen because of our skin tone. Slavery happened because of economics. And we're still dealing with that today. The reason that TPS was canceled is because of economics. The reason that affirmative action was canceled is because of economics. The reason that things are being redistricted is because of economics. They have a racial layer to it. The biggest attack now is on immigrants. I've seen different versions of the attacks. The attacks always come in different ways, whatever is convenient that can be packaged in a message on a 15-second soundbite. Now it's the immigrants taking our jobs. Really? Watch what happens after these TPS get removed, because we have many Haitians. I know in Alabama, about 7,000 to 8,000 Haitians are working 12, 16-hour days just to make sure that we have chickens on our table to eat, fried chickens, whether we go to Popeyes or KFC or at home. So watch how that goes up with Purdue chicken, with Tyson chicken, and so forth. So that's the immigrants' fault, right? But that's the narrative we're fed. But there's an economic component to it that we don't see, just like he's expressing, because there's a group of people that want to take advantage. But I got news for you. When healthcare goes bad, doesn't matter if you're white, black, yellow, or orange, you're gonna suffer. We all suffer. It might be, there might be a poster child of the immigrants. And I experienced that during my campaign. I knocked on a door. It was supposed to have been a Democratic door, but somebody who was very Republican. We spent about 30 to 40 minutes having a great debate, great conversation. We were able to come to agreements on some things, because one of the things he said was, well, you know, I have my friend, I forgot his name, I think Victor or something like that. Well, my friend Victor, now he's got his green card, but before he would to go to the hospital every time he's sick and he wouldn't pay the bill. That's one of the reasons the healthcare was bad. I said, well, you're wrong about that. It has nothing to do with him being an immigrant, because I know a whole lot of people that were born in this country, you know, multiple generations that do the same thing. How is it that it's the immigrants' fault? He's like, yeah, you're right about that. So that's a healthcare issue, because we won't address the healthcare issue, and then we want to blame somebody. We say it's the immigrants. But you got to tell the truth. You got to know the issues. You got to take the time to understand why things are happening. And then now you can speak the truth. And then when you speak the truth, people learn to trust you. They may not agree with you in the beginning, but down the road, they're like, you know what? So-and-so said that. And I didn't know it until now, but now they know you were telling the truth. And that's where you get trust from, is by speaking the truth, know the issues, be and basically follow that. And rather than try to say what people want to hear, only to find out later that they no longer trust you, or try to get what you want out of them and they no longer trust you. But trust comes from being true to what you're about and who you are.
Excellent. I mean, I felt like that was a mic drop, but but yeah, I mean, you deserve the rounds of applause. Please make it louder for them. Thank you. Yes. And I love the way you actually tied it all, from the community, represented the community. It's not about yourself, with a reference to the examples that, Mr. Craig also gave. And then finally sealing it up with, it is about you. Meaning your character, your personality is what builds you up until the point where the people believe in you enough to be backed up. I would like, and we're doing pretty good on time right now. We have roughly about 6 minutes to wrap this plenary session up, and also give room for maybe 1 or 2 questions. So if you do have questions, either we would have, okay, we'll take notes and then, we'd have the mic passed around. But I'd like to ask this one more questions from you all. Of course, a lot of our community representatives and citizens want to advocate. They want to also let their voices be heard. They might not necessarily want to have this representation of being in the leadership. So from your experiences, what are the steps, or how would you advise individuals in the community that wants to lend their voice to representation? How can they get started and walk their way through to the point of, if I can say, achieving the objective of why they amplifying the voices?
And I'm going to keep it short because I know we have 6 minutes and we have questions from the audience. What I would say, start by knowing who your elected officials are. Start on the local level. Local election is so important. That impacts you directly. I mean, the legislature or the power of the governor, that's a statewide thing. But you've got to know your elected official. As Craig mentioned, his wife, she's a chairwoman in my county. And Lisa and I talk all the time. And as he mentioned, Lisa's heart is always with the people. And knowing who your county commissioner is, those information are available online. Know your city council people. And of course, know your representative and your senators. So that's a good way to always start. And then if you're a student, being a part of your school organization that has to do with community or grassroots organization, it's also always helpful too. And I would say your county, every county has so Democrats have theirs, Republicans have theirs, every county have that. So whatever party you're affiliated with, look that up and be a part of that. Go to the meetings, know what's going on. Because look, we are all responsible for the outcomes that we get in the society. So when you're staying silent, people think you're not paying attention, and people use that as an opportunity to push a horrible agenda. But when you pay attention to things, they think about it twice, because again, you elect these people, you vote for them, and when they're not doing what's favorable to you or what you expect them to do, then you change your mind and don't vote for them. So always make sure that you know who your elected officials are, and always make sure that you participate, at least know what's going on locally within your areas.
I'll be quick as well, and I think I'll maybe put it even on more basic level. You need a vote. Every elected official they look at who votes, and they don't pay attention to the people who don't vote. Right. So if you vote, and you can get your friends to vote, and get your family to vote, get your neighbors to vote, they're going to look at your community. They're going to make sure they cater to your community. So we need to make sure that, of course, we as individuals vote, but also as individuals, bring someone along, someone who doesn't vote, who doesn't think about voting. Let's vote. And then, of course, you want to be educated on who you vote for, but the first step is getting to the poll and voting.
Mr. Chakris?
Yes. So how to get engaged? Start with something you care about. If you like to go play tennis and you find out the tennis court in your neighborhood is messed up, find out why. Because it usually starts from a place of passion. Because if you don't bring a passion into whatever it is, you're ultimately gonna forget about it. You're just gonna like and whatever and move on. But if you're passionate about it, then you're gonna keep going, even when you run into obstacles. People, well, we don't have the money for it. Well, this, well, that, and it's gonna die out because you're not passionate about it. But if you're passionate about playing tennis and you want to see a nice tennis court in your community, then you go for it. I'm not passionate about tennis. There's a tennis court in my neighborhood. There was these people when I was president, they harassed me about getting the tennis court right. I said, well, why don't you guys come on the board? They came on the board and I never heard about tennis problems again because it got taken care of. It starts with you caring about something for the problem to be resolved. Because asking somebody who does not have the passion for something to do it for you is really asking for mediocrity. You're not going to get what you want. You're going to get something that's half-baked. From there now, you do what Craig says, because now you start knowing the issues, because now you know, okay, that's what it took, because just about everything takes the same thing. If you want better schools, it's that, the passion. You pursue something. Why do they teach this in my school? If it's at work, I've had to fight that battle many times, at work. I'm like, why are we not doing this? And boss is like, well, we don't have the budget for this. I'm like, well, I pursue it, and until my boss finally, yeah, Jack, you're right. Okay, great. Let's do this. You have to be passionate about it, because if you don't bring that passion, you're asking somebody to do something that they have zero passion for. Why should they do something that you're not passionate about? And you're asking them to do it. When it comes to voting, we have a serious problem in the Black and immigrant community. I know particularly from the Haitian community, we tend to stay away from politics. Why? Because A, we're busy trying to get our lives going and taking care of our kids and taking care of ourselves. But then we come from an environment where politics was taboo, because what we saw mostly was bad politics. But if we want to be in a position to have a difference, you want to offset that with good politics. Goes back to what I was saying earlier, goes back to what these gentlemen were saying. You have to do the right thing. You have to go and push the right thing. We all need to vote. And I really don't want to hear this nonsense about me saying, well, I don't like this person. Well, guess what? Pick one. When I became a US citizen, the only person I knew it was the one at the top of the ticket. That was Bill Clinton. Everybody else I didn't know, but somebody smart said to me, just keep voting up and down the ballot. When you know the issues, then you make your right choice. Because I learned, just like Mr. Cupid just said, is that if you voted for somebody, they'll definitely pay attention for you, right? If you voted against them, they'll do something to help you, so they might convert you to vote for them next time. But if you voted for nobody, you didn't put me here, and you're not going to take me out of here. So bye. If you want service, be part of the process.
I mean, I hope you've all learned something new, as I have. And to our folks who've also joined us online, we hope you've been enjoying all this information, even though some of those things might sound strange to some individuals because you've just been sitting at home while all the world around you is moving forward. This is the challenge, and this is why AIM is actually putting this together. It's been the African Immigrant Collective Advocacy session for 2026. The plenary focus is being Leave Realities, Collective Power. I'm hoping that each and every one of us will take today's information back to our respective homes, find a course that also appeals to your conscience, be intentional to represent the people, and move forward by actually advancing those concerns, starting with your local legislative representative, from your county chair to your commissioner to your district representative, and then scale it up that way. There's a change of flow of leadership, and we have to learn to follow through. And remember, as Mr. Jacques just said, teach one, help one. Okay, we must also be intentional, especially within our community, to make sure we're transferring this knowledge. We're intentionally finding those who can also come along and actually help. The only way we can transfer leadership is to also begin to groom those who would actually replace us. I like to end with that. We would actually accommodate 2 questions. Okay, then we'll actually take a quick break and we'll come back for the next plenary session. So 2 questions. Okay, so I want to be fair. Okay, I know I see mostly males. If we can have 1 female question hand up, that would be great. If not, we'll take 2 from males. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Ken Kungani. I'm with the National African Student Association, and appreciate you coming in and pretty much giving us all your insights. And even for your last points about kind of voting and representation is important. Kind of going along with that, we know that voting by basically, let's say from like 65 and above, they vote 75% vote. You go down 45 and above, it's like 70 or 60%. You get to like 18 to 24 category, it's only like 49% kind of vote. So how do we, and if you look at even the Republican strategy, you see like things like TP, US and everything, like they're realizing that we need to influence our younger generation early enough so that they can get to these places and represent and advocate for the things that they care about. All right, here in Georgia and I'm sure other states, we've seen like teen takeovers, right? So they have a big voice and big influence, but we're not really seeing them in spaces like this as much. And it's good to see some of them here, but it's not at the number that we need to pretty much have it at to be able to move the needle, right? So no one really cares about them to some extent where they care, like to really care about 20 years now down the line where we're going to be. So how do we influence the younger generation to make sure that they're in the advocacy space? Because they have bigger voices, they have more space, they have more energy. So what's your take about the younger generation being able to come into these spaces?
Maybe before you do that, let's actually accommodate the second question, so we'll be able to loop that in, since it's really about how you motivate the teenagers.
So I'll be quick. Good morning, everyone. My name is Falami. I've been able to live in 3 different continents, and America is really unique, as you all know. And my question to you, based on what you said, Rep, earlier, was if we removed race from the equation, meaning that job applications, school forms, just about everywhere I go, I'm always seeing check 1 box, right? If we remove that and we just, like you said, just dealt with people as people, like you're in this country, regardless of where you're from, you're just an American or immigrant or whatever, would that really change, the, you know what I mean, that we're feeling, you know what I mean? I wonder if you removed it where just, you apply for a job or you go to a office for whatever, and they just dealt with you just on the basis that you're a human being. I'm curious to know what you guys think will really happen.
And
Good question. So again, how do we motivate the younger generation to be more involved and present in conversations or rooms like this? And of course, the race delete from from the system. Go ahead.
So that one is easy. That's in my wheelhouse. Just last night, I was at a church. They have a mentoring program, and they asked me through my campaign. They asked me to come and work with the kids and mentor them. Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Just show up, because what I've learned throughout my life is when you show up for the kids, they show up for you. Okay, I used to coach a group of kids in my church up in New York on basketball, and I moved to Georgia. They found me to get a letter of recommendation as their coach so they could go play in the Navy. Okay, call me, let me know, hey, I got selected by a team in Italy, or they came from Arizona, came all the way to my church just to visit me. Okay, because they knew that I was standing for them. So if you're not there to stand for them when they have an issue, well, I'm having this issue at school. I'm having this issue with mom and dad. I'm having this issue with this. If you're not listening to the young people, you got to trust them, which is what we talked about. You got to trust our young people. Here's my problem I have with us a lot of times. We spend so much money, so much time, so much energy into having our kids, raising them, and do all the things for them. And then when they start showing up like us, because that's who they are, we don't trust them. That's a problem. We have to trust our kids. They may not be where we are, but we have to give him that chance. My oldest son, 32-year-old, called me a few months ago, said, Dad, you know what? I found my religion. I'm going back to my roots. Out of nowhere, after many years of saying he don't care about church, but he's finding his way. He's got to go on his own time, each one. For our young people to know the issues, it's simple. I already said it. Start with something you like. That's what it is at the end of the day. We lost TPS because we didn't vote. Okay? If we don't look at things from from both micro and macro perspective, the reason it happened up there is because we didn't care down here. But from an economic standpoint, we should be building silos to help our community. Okay, there are communities that are doing that. The Asian community, they plan for the immigrants to come here from way back. Are we doing this in the Black community in some other communities? If we're not doing that, guess what? Now that we lost TPS, we already lost affirmative action. There was an attempt to redistrict because now the Voters' Rights Act has been undermined. The next thing on the docket, it's already in the U.S. Supreme Court. You know what's next? Birthright citizenship. So if you're Black and you think it has nothing to do with you, I got news for you, okay? If you haven't been hit yet, you're next. Because as a business owner, I got emails from USCIS telling me the 21 countries have TPS, they're being removed. Okay, 21 countries. And not all of them are in Africa or the Caribbean. We have Syria, we have countries, Burma, all these other countries. And all of that is all about one group, and I'm not going to say it's the white group because it's not. It is the rich folks, not all of them are white, okay, that want to take advantage of those that don't have. It's the haves and the have-nots. If you're young, if you want to get someplace in your life, you got to work on it now. If you don't work on it now, there won't be much left for you later. And we on the older spectrum, we need to teach that to our kids. Get involved, get engaged, because your life matters.
Thank you, Ms. Lauren.
And I'm going to summarize his question very quickly. So his question was, if we don't have a racial factor, what does society look like? Is my microphone working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. And you know what's fascinating? We've got to look at the history and how we got here. I'll just piggyback on this point very quickly. Society became racial in the United States because you had the wealthy folk, you had the slave owners who had pushed the native people away, stole the land, and got Black folk come in and work as slaves, and then built all of this wealth. And then they had the low income, I would say, white folk who were policing those slaves. At some point, they understood each other. And society had to come up with a way, the rich folk, the landowners had to come up with a way to protect what they have. And that's how they brought that division about. So that divisiveness was manufactured in the United States. It never existed. Now, people enslaved all over the world. We know that, but that racial part of that was all manufactured in the United States. Now, I don't know what it's going to take us to abolish that, to take that away, but I know from my experience and my lived experience, the vast majority of people, human beings, are good people. It didn't matter what your color is. There are so many great people, white folk, Black folk, Hispanic folk, Asian. There are so many good people, but you always find a very small percentage who's acquired wealth, and in efforts for them to protect what they got to find a way to create confusion at the bases. And if you think about the folk that are supporting the president we have now, it is really those who might have been economically disadvantaged, and they tell that folk, hey, that's who's taking your job. It's his fault that you're not doing well. It's the Somalis' fault that jobs are taken away from certain places. So it's a strategy for them to keep growing in wealth. I don't believe society should have a trillionaire. I don't even think a society should have a billionaire or millionaire, yes. But I don't think society should be that holding so much wealth. And that's how they control people. They find and I don't know what it's going to take to change that, but it's a manipulative way for people to keep acquiring wealth and keep expanding their base and keep confusion at the bottom.
And I'll just say a few words, and I agree wholeheartedly. Is really creating the vision. And if we just looked at people's qualifications, for example, you know, the issues with DEI, right? And you look at the administration right now, all right, they foster division, saying DEI is an issue, but they have I can't even say qualified. They have no qualifications at all, but for somehow they got in that position. What were their qualifications? They kiss butt, and usually they're Caucasian, but not necessarily. But most important, if you kiss his butt, you're in that position. So with that said, interesting thought exercise. I'm not sure if that'll happen anytime soon.
Well, hopefully with us, we would actually change that narrative, because here's how I like to put it. You actually find a problem. Don't look at when you will solve it. Just get started and attempt, and the like minds will find you, and possibly that change is possible. So yeah, it's obvious. It feels impossible right now, but who would have actually said a couple of years ago we could see it in the Gwinnett chambers like this, have a diversity-oriented program like this that's actually to motivate, because what we're really doing here is to motivate each and every one to step up and build more momentum behind you, to advocate, to support individuals like this. They both ran. Yeah, they didn't make it, but that's not the end of it. And this is the reason why I refuse to let you both go, because we're going to get back in it again. And that this time around, you will be there, because he cannot be the only one. You understand? Yeah, right now we have a few numbers at the Capitol and things like that, but we know that voice is still not strong enough. Okay, when I say my experience is more of business development and strategy, it comes from the place of what do we need to do to empower people like him? Because he had other things to do, but he knew how important it is to come show up, represent the people. He's a family man. His kids are pretty active in sports. So I know this morning he could have been out there, but he also understood how important it is to come on, to come showcase to you. It's all about a representation of family, and of course, family would understand. And Mr. Jacques, as a religious leader, and I'm being very emphatic about it, because sometimes within our community, we're over-religious about everything. Oh, did I hear amen? So there is a balance in everything. And if we don't show up, if we don't accommodate the younger ones to be present in this room, to actually support them, to trust them, we were once children ourselves. We were once kids. So we should expect they would actually do wrongs, but we have to also be forgiven. And above it all, I would like to end this plenary session to say, without you casting your vote, without you being intentional to pull someone else to join you, we would only continue to fill space. So let's make sure in a few months from now, not years, we come back here and we see some of you sitting here in the audience, sit in this position, because we must replace ourselves. That's the only way we can move strong. It's been a pleasure hosting you all this far. Thank you so much to all our plenaries and our guest speakers. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to take a long break, so we're just going to do a 2 minutes quick bathroom break, and we can actually circle right back and get into the next one. But before you leave, we'll take a quick picture. Also, a few people might want to take pictures with you so we can accommodate them.